Alright, I am going to run through March 18th's classwork real quick. There's 3 problems. The first one's dealing with a parabola. So we have to come up with the equation and graph it. If we have a vertex at 4, -2, and a focus at 6, -2, the first thing I would do is graph it anyway. So 4, -2, we're going over 4, down 2. There's our vertex. And then remember, the parabola always eats the focus. So if our focus is here at 6, -2, we know the parabola is opening left and right. So if it's opening left and right, that means that our y is the one that's going to be squared. And that's good enough for a sketch. Okay, so our y is going to be squared. So that means it's going to be of the form y minus k squared equals 4a times x minus h. And we know our h and our k, we know that from our vertex. So our h is -4 and our k is -2. So we're going to have y minus -2 becomes +2 squared equaling 4. Now our a, that's going to be the distance between the vertex and the focus, which is 2. So our a is 2. And then we have x minus our h, which is 4. And I'm just going to neaten that up a little bit by doing 4 times 2. But since this is conic, you can just leave it in this form. You don't have to solve for x or y or anything like that. And that is the equation of the parabola. Alright, that was the first question. The second question, number 50. This one had to do with ellipses. Okay, so we were given 4x squared plus 3y squared plus 8x minus 6y equals 5. And we had to find the center, focus, and vertices for the ellipse, and we have to graph it. Well, first thing we need to do is get this in vertex form. So I'm going to gather all the x's together. So 4x squared and the 8x. And then I'm going to put all the y's together. 3y squared minus 6y. And have it equal to 5. Then I'm going to get ready to complete the square. Remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So we have 4x squared plus 8x plus blank plus 3y squared minus 6y plus blank equals 5 plus blank plus blank. Actually, before I complete the square, I do need to pull out that number in the front. So I'm going to pull out a 4 here for the x's. So we have 4, and that'll be x squared plus 2x plus blank. Here we'll pull out the 3 and have y squared minus 2y plus our blank. Whatever our blank is going to have to multiply times that number in the front. And then we have, on the right, we still have 5 plus blank plus blank. Alright, so now figuring out what goes into our completing of the square. We take half of our x number first, which is 1, and square it. So 1 squared is 1 that goes there. But we didn't really add a 1. We really added 4 times 1, which is 4. Here, half of -2 is -1. Square it. And we get a positive 1, but we didn't really add 1. We did 1 times 3, which is 3. So a 3 is added to the right-hand side. So we completed the square, so now we made a perfect square trinomial, so we can make it 4, and then x in our half number, which is a positive 1 squared, plus 3, and then y in our half number, which is -1 squared, equals 9 plus 3 is 12. But we don't want it to equal to 12, we want it to equal to 1. So we're going to have to go through and divide everything by 12. so that it will equal 1. So 4 goes into 12 3 times. So we have x plus 1 squared over 3 plus y minus 1 squared over 4 equals 1. Alright, so now we know that's our standard form of the equation. That's a good thing. Now we can identify some things from there. So we know our center. Remember, it's opposite opposite because of HK. So it'll be -1, +1. So I'm going to start to graph it while I do this. Okay, so our center at -1, +1, that's here. In the x direction, we're going to go to the square root of 3, which is like 1 point something. So we'll go 1 point something to the right, 1 point something to the left. Square root of 4 is 2, so up and down we'll go 2. And 2 is longer than the square root of 3, so our major axis is going to be going up and down. So I do believe we also had to find our vertices, which will be on the end of our major axes. So our vertices are here, I'll just label with a V, here and here. So we have -1, 3. And then we have -1, -1. That's where our two vertices lie. And then for our foci, we'll actually need to figure out what C is. So I'm going to go to the side real quick and figure out what C is. Remember, since it's plus in the equation, this will have minus. So C squared equals A squared minus B squared. So C squared equals, I'm just going to go with 4 minus 3. Bigger minus the smaller. So C squared equals 1, which means the square root of 1 is 1. So C is 1. So that means our foci are 1 away from the center, 1 up and 1 down. So our two foci, one will be at -1, 1. And the other one will, oh wait, that's where the center is, sorry, my bad. -1, 2 is where the first one will be. And then the other one's at -1, 0. So those are our two foci. And that completely answers the question because we have the ellipse graphed, we identified the center, vertices, and foci. Alright, and then the last one, number 51. This one will be our hyperbola. Hyperbola is from 10-4. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at some of those PowerPoints I posted that hopefully they helped a little bit. YouTube has tons of stuff too if you're struggling with any of this. Alright, so we have y minus 2 squared minus 4 times x plus 2 squared equals 4. So again, this one is not in standard form for a hyperbola. In order to put it into standard form, we need to divide both sides by 4, or, well, yeah, divide both sides by 4, or divide everything by 4. So that first term will stay the same. We have y minus 2 squared over 4. Minus, here the 4's will cancel, so it's like x plus 2 squared over 1. And then equals 1. Now that's standard form for the hyperbola. So now we can sketch it and identify the pieces, parts that we need to identify. Alright, so first of all, our center. The center is at, go with the x first, so -2. And then the y is +2. So we have a center at -2, +2. So that's right here. And then in the y direction, we have 4 underneath. So in the y direction, we're going to go up and down 2 from our center. It's going to open up and down. So actually, those will end up being our vertices because y is first. It has nothing to do with y being bigger. And then in the x direction, we do the square root of 1, which is 1. So we go 1 to the left, 1 to the right. Okay, and then you can make your box. Actually, let me identify vertices over here real quick just because I can. Oops, sorry. So our vertices are at -2, 4, and -2, 0. And went ahead and drew in our asymptotes going through the corners. I can go ahead and draw in our hyperbola at this point to follow the asymptotes and go through the vertices. Okay, let's see. Foci. We need to identify our foci, which means you need to know what C is. So with this equation, we have a minus for the hyperbola. So we'll have c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So c squared will equal 4 plus 1, or c squared equals 5. So c is plus or minus the square root of 5. So our foci will be up and down the square root of 5 from the center, not from the vertices. So our foci, the -2 will stay. So -2, and then it'll be 2 plus and minus the square root of 5. Okay, so that's our foci. Now, notice everything is x equals -2. All your x's there are x is -2. So your transverse axis is x equals -2. All right, and then finally your asymptotes. We need the equations for those. If we use the center in our slopes, we'll have y minus, and then our y here is 2, equals our slope up and over goes up 2 over 1, so plus or minus 2. And then you can look at your x here, it's just x plus 2, or just know your center is -2, so it's minus -2, which makes it x plus 2. And you can just leave it like that. And that's the equation for the asymptotes. So those are all the answers you need for this one. I hope studying is going okay. I will post the test on Wednesday. You'll have all day Wednesday to take the test. You get one shot, unlike the quiz where you have 2. You still need to have your quiz done by Wednesday. Make sure you have that done by 7 o'clock. And then your test I will give you until 11:59 on Wednesday. So good luck on your test. It'll be in my math lab, so a little different. Let me know if you have any problems, and I will talk to you soon.